but I will always push back on the kind of the snobbishness of Hollywood in a way. So it says Martin Scorsese's obsession. Martin Scorsese says obsession over box office is repulsive and insulting.
How about I just read what he said?
Go for it.
And we can talk about it.
Go for it.
He said that cinema is devalued, demeaned, belittled from all sides, not necessarily the business side, but certainly the art. Since the 80s, there's been a focus on numbers. It's kind of repulsive. The cost of a movie is one thing. Understand that a film costs a certain amount. They expect to at least get the amount back, plus again. The emphasis is now on numbers, cost, the opening weekend, how much it made in the USA, how much it made in England, how much it made in Asia, how much it made in the entire world, how many viewers it got. As a filmmaker and as a person who can't imagine life without cinema, I always find it really insulting. I've always known that such considerations have no place at the New York Film Festival. And here's the key also with this. There are no awards here. You don't have to compete. You just have to love cinema here.
Well, the problem is...
And then everyone clapped.
And then everybody
But for real, they actually clapped.
Yes. The problem is that you're in a business where art and commerce coincide. And you don't get to just be an artist with millions of dollars being spent. You are also a capitalist because... Those
are almost all media of art.
Yes. You're not unless you're footing 110% of that bill. Damn it! I did the 110% thing. Damn it!
No.
And here I was.
Everyone
thinking,
is about to drink a shot.
Everyone take a shot. Unless you're footing 110% of that bill, you don't have room to make it just about the art. And
I think Mark Wahlberg would have room to talk about how he really values the art if you put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah. Explain that.
I mean, because he really believed in Father Stu and put his own money into the project. Mel Gibson also put his money into that project.
Yeah.
And it wasn't guaranteed to be successful because it's not what is a blockbuster in cinema right now.
And that might be unique to like but maybe the idea here is that has a very sectored audience that they can count on, even if they have faith in the movie. They know that the religious
but is that sector big enough that they can actually make a profit? They did end up making a profit. I don't remember
but
by
I guarantee
how much.
you that movie costs less than what Scorsese is spending on his movies.
Right.
First of all, you can't, it's not about just making your money back. Nobody enters a business to just make your money back. You enter a business to profit because it allows you. Walt Disney had a quote. He said, "We don't make movies to make money. We make money so that we can make more movies." Right. Mm-hmm. So you don't get to just be like, "Oh, here, I made you your money back."
Yeah.
They're not gonna find a reason to make another movie with you unless you make them enough money to make another movie. And just making their money back doesn't do that.
If you have real respect for the craft, which he, is posturing as valuing the craft over anything.
And I do believe that he values the craft.
Yes.
The art of it.
But if you want to live that out, you're going to have to make profitable films, which he does.
Yes.
But, don't forget the importance of that if you want to continue in, offering these movies to the public. You can't do that without making a profit.
And it does feel
and you can't make them better each time without making a profit. It's interesting that he is contrasting the New York Film Festival with a kind of competition or award show. The award shows are rigged, first of all, anyways.
Yeah.
But he's contrasting this film festival with the competition when actually it is a competition, even though there are no awards, because you're shopping films to production companies.
To buy.
You are shopping films to a Sony or a Universal, whoever wants to buy them so that you have the money to make them and make them as grandiose and beautiful as you want and take as long as you need to make them beautiful.
I think he's part of a dying sector of the industry, unfortunately. I look at a movie, first of all, I look at a movie like Amsterdam, which is exactly what he's talking about. It's what he would consider art in a sense, right? It's not a mass marketed, it was mass marketed, but it doesn't have mass appeal towards a large, it's not a Marvel movie, which Scorsese is famously very critical of. And it doesn't have, when we were watching the trailers, it didn't have a story that they could cleanly tell you and hook you on, right? So it's part of this auteur sector of the internet or a sector of the filmmaking business that really does belong in theaters, but would do better on streaming because it's not going to get people out to the theater to go see it because you can't do that without big name actors. But even that didn't work here.
I want to read Guillermo
Del
Toro's quote about Scorsese's view on cinema. He said, "If God offered to shorten my life to lengthen Scorsese's, I'd take the deal. This man understands cinema, defends cinema, embodies cinema."
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys so much.
He has always fought for the art of it and against the industry of it. He has never tamed and has a firm place in history. I fundamentally disagree with pitting the industry against the art form.
Yeah.
Because the industry is what makes the art form possible.
And
the art
always at
form makes
odds.
the industry possible. It's a symbiotic relationship. And the reason that, frankly, these pretentious artists want that dichotomy, they like have this false dichotomy in their minds, is because I guess they want to feel like they're fighting a system.
Yeah.
But they're part of the system.
Yeah.
A Scorsese is in charge of the system.
I think to like what they taught you, the old trope of like the bean counters, the people that dole out the money, they'll put up with like a crazy filmmaker because he makes money. Now they want to be the crazy artistic filmmaker. I'm not talking about Scorsese specifically, but Hollywood in general. There's those directors that they want to be the crazy artist, but they don't bring in the money that the crazy artists used to, why would the bean counters want to put up with you if you're not giving them a return on their investment? It's like they forgot that that's a part of it, right? And which is why people make fun of me for I'm like, there's a reason the Fast and the Furious exists. There's a reason franchises like that are a thing, because whether you like it or not, the film business is business first. Actually, these days I'd argue it's message first, business second, art third.
Depends on the group of people.
That's the way it is. And then, so I also wanted to point out that another thing that works against him now is we are working with global audiences. Whereas when Scorsese was making his movies before, uniquely American stories, it would feel like for a lot of movies back then. Now you have to, the studio is not going to let you make a uniquely American movie. You have to make a movie that somehow can appeal to all areas. Does that make sense?
Well, if it can, you plan that it will offend the sensibilities in another country so that you can make a selling point out of the fact that it was banned in like Saudi Arabia or China.
Well, not just that, but
which
also
is phony.
Stories about, or I guess in the past, even then, a story about the Italian mob could capture the imagination of more than just an American audience. I would also point out that there's a problem here with the consolidation of studios, that there's just less places to get your movie out there now, because before you'd have all these different studios. Now Disney buys up everything. Warner Brothers buys up everything.
But before is when? Because the film industry is so young.
Yeah.
And it gotten to this corrupted place so quickly.
Yeah.
A lot of people are questioning if it's exhausted its value already.
I mean, you could make that argument. You could make that argument that it's lost its value.
I mean, cameras. Yeah. There's a reason a lot of people thought that cameras steal your soul.
Do you believe that?
Maybe. I'm just saying, like, this is it's such a radically like early industry. Like, it has so much longer to prove its value, and it seems like it's crashed and burned already.
On ideological
because of
grounds.
Those ideological hang-ups. But also just because people in Hollywood have this insulated culture that excuses bad behavior, and they have character flaws that cause them to point the finger at the public who are viewing their products.
I do think that the consolidation of studios, meaning that there's less places from these big studios, from a Disney, from a Warner Brothers, who have consolidated down and bought up all this stuff, that the place to go if you actually want your art to matter would be to go to streaming, where you're going to be able to. Remember, a lot of people would tell the stories like Netflix just gave them a crap ton of money and said, make whatever the hell you want back in the day. Like the Russo brothers said that. So why waste your money on, I guess, was it Scorsese that made The Irishman? I believe Scorsese made The Irishman. But like the idea that like Netflix gives you $250 million and what you come up with is The Gray Man. I'm for it because I love crappy spy movies.
Okay, but The Gray Man wasn't a multi-$100 million worth watch.
No, it wasn't. But I'm saying like the idea that you could it's like they need to find a sweet spot here where if you can't release it in theaters, if these genres just don't make that much money in the box office anymore, I'd argue that Top Gun Maverick proves that you can if you do it right. Because even though that is a sequel, thank you,
guys.
Like, thank you. Even though that is a sequel, it's still a very good story. The legs are more important than the opening box office anyway. So a good story with good word of mouth will last a hell of a lot longer. But it's just very, very hard to do. And so, thank you.
That's a long one. Mine is. It's like not working.
It's being very
over
temperamental.
Here.
It's being very temperamental today. And then let's face it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Let's face it. People will just take She-Hulk. They will. They'll just take She-Hulk anyways. So they're not incentivized to spend more money on auteur work from famous directors.
There's more money spent on something like Thor: Love and Thunder than on auteur work.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. Like, you're shaping, you as a tastemaker, like you are shaping what people want by giving them something like that.
I think right now, I saw not an advertisement, I saw an article in Variety about another upcoming Western. The name of it escapes me. I think we're going to go through a Western renaissance as far as like they're going to try and reimagine the Western genre, and all we've got saving us is Taylor Sheridan and Taylor Sheridan's excellent storytelling. I'm very excited for the Tulsa King, which makes me think more of old school Hollywood because it is about it's about Stallone finally getting to play a mobster, which he's always wanted to do. But like I said, you're not going to find that in a movie theater these days. I think that goes to streaming.
I don't want to fully condemn being ideologically driven. This is like
go on,
not a good thing to say on Pop Culture Crisis, is it?
Go for
but
it.
like, look at old interviews of Sylvester Stallone.
Okay.
You just reminded me.
Okay.
Like, he is talking about how he can insert his values and morals into film so that he can shape the minds of the people watching. That's what film has really always been about.
The power to do so.
Yeah, the power to, change people's perspectives or sensibilities, or give them a new archetype to aspire to. You have to make prescriptive, I don't know, like when you write a script, you are prescribing what is appropriate or moral to do. When you make a hero, you're telling the viewers what is the right thing to do and who is strong and who is weak.
Yeah.
When you make a villain, you're telling the viewers what is objectively wrong and evil.
Yeah. And you think
and
that
what is cowardly.
So you think now the problem is that that what is considered acceptable is just away from what we would value.
Yeah, everything has been toppled upside down, and that's the real problem. Not just that filmmakers have become ideologically driven all of a sudden.
We just don't like the
always
ideology.
have been.
We just don't like the ideology that they're now espousing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, like, a lot of people like would disagree with me about this, but like Hollywood has been steadily getting to this point that we call wokeism ever since Hollywood existed as an entity, as an industry. These same values have existed for over a century, and they've been enforced to keep actors and actresses as products in studios. Like, maybe this is a little too ambiguous, but like actresses in old Hollywood were forced effectively to be on mind-altering medications, to not get pregnant, and to not get married. And then when they were no longer sellable as products,
Yeah.
then they were discarded.
Which is like that now the movies are just catching up to the values that they already possessed.
Yeah, these values have existed in Hollywood for so long.
For a very, very long time.
It's just becoming more noticeable. That's the only difference.
Oh, it boggles my mind because I think to like all of the stuff that I really like, all of the shows that I really like, which are very, for the most part, I mean, I love some stuff that's on the heavier side of like the dramatic spectrum, but most of it is like fairly lighthearted, right? And there's a fine line for like the concept of like a dramedy, which is like half drama, half comedy, or it's drama with comedy sprinkled in a way that's done well enough that it doesn't inhibit the serious moments from feeling serious.
Mm-hmm.
And that felt like a really good genre to kind of go after like topics that involve the real world, because the real world is a fairly is a place where you're going to have dramatic moments, you're going to be serious, but you're also going to laugh. And I feel like they've lost the plot on a lot of that.
Actually, Being Mortal, Aziz Ansari's film, all we know about it is that it's a dramedy about about hospice care and I think end of life care. It's exactly what you're talking about, but it's suspended in production and we don't know if it'll come out.
I used to work as a medical supply delivery person, so I would go in and out of hospice care facilities, and I wouldn't be able to find the humor in making a movie there, but you can obviously have to find the humor when they work in an industry like that, because you won't survive unless you learn how to laugh as well as cry, I suppose would be the way of phrasing it.
Yeah, when I think about the jokes that Bill Murray might have made on set for Being Mortal, and while they're all wearing N95s and they're subject to nose swabs and all of these different COVID protocols, I can see how, the film grapples with mortality and how our health is really a blessing, and it's a fragile thing that can be threatened at any time. And I can see why he would be cracking jokes about that didn't land well, or that he made in an unprofessional way, especially given his age, makes him particularly vulnerable to COVID. And I believe that that's why he was casted in the film. He probably was casted as a patient in hospice care.
Do you think that the idea that we used to have the idea that Hollywood gave the people what they wanted, right? That they made the movies that people wanted to see. Do you think that at that time the value systems just happened to line up and now they just don't, and that they were always going to make the movies they wanted to make the way they wanted to make them? And it was just a coincidence that at the time their value system, at least for the time being, hadn't evolved so far as our value system has remained fairly stagnant the whole way, and theirs was always was fairly close to ours, but then just got progressively more and more progressive, I guess, and just moved away from where we were.
It's difficult to tell.
I
I don't want to frame them as like this other species that somehow like wants different things than we do.
I
Human psychology spans this across, strata of society, and like people in the entertainment industry, they want the same stories that we want. They are human beings after all. They have the same psychology that we have, and the same drives and instincts and desires, in the deepest parts of themselves. Like, they have the same desires that we do. Maybe a desire for faux liberation has been instilled in them by a third party, and that's very difficult to uproot in them.
But I think back to what we said that one time about like how when Hollywood promotes itself to the rest of the world, they don't promote American values, they promote Hollywood values. They really are kind of a nation unto themselves. So I don't know if I buy that. Yeah, maybe in the deepest recesses of their brain, they have values that might come somewhere close to what ours may be.
When they're portraying a reimagined Snow White, it's because the women of Hollywood want to feel like they have agency, and they want to feel like they have power and autonomy.
Yeah.
And those come from like very natural human desires. that I'm sure are not respected in Hollywood.
So you think that it's because
everything is just very twisted and confused right
think it
now.
would be
That's
that-
all I'm saying.
You think that would be more insulting to them, though, to have the people who don't allow them to have their own agency making the movies that tell people to have agency?
Yeah. I mean, obviously Hollywood is a very like sick society that's insulated in basically a bubble.
Yeah.
With their own like spores milling about, I guess.
So to me, I don't take issue with all of what Scorsese said. I just took issue with the part where he kind of dismisses the fact that the money does matter. It does, whether you like it or not. A movie has to make 2 times its budget.
It's ironic for someone who's made so much money
Yeah.
to even say that.
A movie has to make 2 times its budget at least to be worth making more of, because you only keep 60% of the box office anyways.
That just shows that like once your net worth gets to a certain place, the difference of $1 million or 2 million, whatever number of millions there are, makes no difference to you.
They don't get it.
Yeah, they don't get profits anymore.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.